The rain came down like it had something to prove, hammering the cracked roads and tin roofs with relentless force, and as thunder rolled across the gray sky, Arav Malik pedaled his rusted bicycle faster than his aching legs thought possible, praying he would make it home before the storm swallowed the town whole. His thin shirt clung to his skin, his shoes squelched with every turn of the wheel, and the small bag of leftover bread tied to the handlebar felt heavier than usual, not because of its weight, but because of what it represented: survival for one more day. Arav had learned long ago that life did not slow down for poor men with kind hearts, and yet that night, as fate would have it, kindness was exactly what would change everything. If you believe that kindness still matters in a world like this, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Corner, because stories like this remind us that second chances often come disguised as simple acts of compassion. Arav was a single father, though the word father felt too grand for the life he lived. He worked as a daytime street cleaner, sweeping dust and garbage from roads that people barely noticed unless they were dirty. Every morning before sunrise, he tied his worn shoes, kissed his sleeping son Kabir on the forehead, and promised himself he would do better today than yesterday. Kabir was only 8, frail from years of malnutrition, but bright-eyed and gentle, the kind of child who apologized to stray dogs when he accidentally startled them. Arav's wife had passed away during Kabir's infancy, and since then, life had become a quiet war against hunger, shame, and exhaustion. Still, Arav carried himself with dignity, refusing to beg, refusing to steal, believing stubbornly that honesty was the only inheritance he could leave his son. That stormy evening, as darkness crept in earlier than usual, Arav noticed something strange near the old bus stop by the highway. Two small figures stood huddled beneath a broken shelter, their clothes soaked, their hair plastered to their faces by rain. At first, he thought they were reflections or tricks of the storm, but as lightning lit the road, he saw clearly that they were two young girls, identical in every way, holding each other as if that was the only thing keeping them upright. People drove past them without slowing, tires splashing muddy water onto the pavement, eyes fixed ahead, hearts closed for the night. Arav stopped his bicycle. His body screamed at him to keep going. Kabir would be waiting at home, hungry, scared of the thunder, counting the minutes until his father returned. Arav had nothing to offer these girls, not money, not comfort, not safety. But as he looked at their trembling forms, he saw Kabir's face superimposed on theirs, and something inside him refused to move forward without them. The girls were twins, no older than 10, their school bags soaked through, their shoes broken. They had been traveling with a driver who promised to drop them near their aunt's house, but the car broke down miles away, and the man left to seek help, never returning. Their phones were dead, the rain relentless, and fear had settled into their bones. Arav did not ask many questions. He took off his own thin jacket and wrapped it around their shoulders, knowing he would feel the cold more sharply but unable to let them shiver any longer. He told them they could come with him, that his home was small but dry, that he would find a way to help them in the morning. The walk back was slow and difficult. Arav pushed his bicycle with one hand while guiding the girls with the other, shielding them from passing vehicles. By the time they reached his neighborhood, the storm had softened into a steady drizzle, and the night air carried the smell of wet earth. Arav's home was a single-room structure with a leaking roof and walls that had long forgotten paint. Inside, Kabir ran to his father, relief washing over his small face before curiosity took hold at the sight of the twins. Arav shared the bread he brought home, tearing it into smaller pieces so everyone could have some, pretending he was not hungry, pretending his stomach did not ache as badly as it did. That night, as rain tapped against the roof, Arav lay awake on the floor, listening to the twins breathe softly beside Kabir. He wondered if he had made a terrible mistake bringing strangers into his home. He wondered if anyone would come looking for them. He wondered, briefly, if kindness was foolish in a world that rewarded cruelty. But when Kabir rolled in his sleep and reached for one of the girl's hands, as if instinctively offering comfort, Arav felt a quiet peace settle over him. Morning arrived with pale sunlight breaking through the clouds, washing the streets clean as if the storm had been a necessary cleansing. Arav prepared to go to work, planning to ask around for help finding the girl's family. Before he could leave, black cars rolled into the narrow lane outside his home, their polished surfaces painfully out of place among the broken bicycles and uneven paths. Neighbors gathered, whispering, suspicion thick in the air. Arif's heart pounded as uniformed officers stepped out, followed by a tall man in a simple suit, his expression carved from worry and restraint. The twins recognized him instantly and ran forward, tears of relief spilling down their faces. The man knelt and pulled them into his arms, his composure cracking as he held them, murmuring apologies, gratitude, prayers of thanks. He was Arvind Khanna, a respected district judge known for his integrity and strict rulings. The entire neighborhood seemed to hold its breath as realization spread. Arav stood frozen, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. Had he unknowingly crossed a powerful man? Would he be accused of something he did not do? Poverty had taught him to expect the worst from authority. But Judge Khanna rose and turned toward Arav, his eyes scanning the small home, the patched roof, the thin mattress, the barefoot child clinging to his leg. Without ceremony, the judge bowed his head slightly, a gesture that stunned everyone watching. He spoke of gratitude, of how his daughters had been missing all night, of how fear had nearly broken him. He spoke of how Arav had done what dozens of others failed to do: stop, care, and act without expecting anything in return. Over the following days, life shifted in ways Arav could not have imagined. Judge Khanna insisted on helping, not out of obligation, but out of deep respect. Arav was offered a stable job as a school maintenance supervisor, a role that came with a steady income, benefits, and dignity. Kabir was enrolled in a good school, his meals assured, his future suddenly brighter. The twins visited often, bringing laughter and color into Arav's once quiet home, calling him uncle with a warmth that made his eyes sting every time. What moved Arav most was not the material change, but the validation. For years, he had believed his kindness went unnoticed, that doing the right thing in silence meant nothing. Yet here was proof that goodness had weight, that compassion could ripple outward in ways unseen. Judge Khanna, true to his principles, never spoke publicly about the incident, never turned it into a spectacle. He simply ensured that a good man and his son were no longer invisible. If this story is touching your heart, if it reminds you of the power of simple humanity, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video so more people can feel this emotion too. As time passed, Arav continued to live modestly, refusing excessive help, choosing instead to stand on his own strengthened feet. Kabir grew healthier, louder, full of questions about the world, about fairness, about why his father always helped others even when it was hard. Arav would smile and tell him that kindness was not a transaction, that it was a responsibility, one that made life meaningful even when it was painful. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Comment below and tell us what kindness means to you, because your words might inspire someone who needs hope today. Years later, on a bright afternoon filled with sunlight rather than storms, Arav watched Kabir play in the schoolyard, his laughter ringing through the air. He thought back to that night of rain and fear, to the moment he almost chose to ride past two shivering figures in the dark. He realized then that destiny often whispers instead of shouts, and it is up to ordinary people to listen. Arav did not know he was helping the daughters of a judge. He only knew they were children in need. And in choosing them, he had unknowingly chosen a future where kindness came back to him, not as a reward, but as a reminder that doing good is never wasted.